This 1992 Mercedes-Benz 300 SE had an original MSRP of over $74,000 when new. When using an inflation calculator, that would be roughly $135,662.10 in 2020 money. This car, however, has had a hard life and was purchased for a little over $1,000 at the start of 2019. This is what a beater Mercedes W140 looks like. Now, this is something I'd never thought I would cover on this channel. Now, I've covered some beaters before, but those have typically been of the expected. Chevy Cavaliers, Chevy S10 Blazers, and even my own Dodge Diplomat. But how does a car that started off so expensive when it was first sold end up at this point? Well, it's had a hard life. But this is a W140, probably one of the last quote-unquote bulletproof Mercedes, as the brand would begin the introduction of more and more electronic systems integrated in the name of safety and luxury, and just overall cost-cutting across the brand. The W140 line of cars is the third generation of what is known as the S-Class, the top of the Mercedes line, the cream of the crop. At the time, Mercedes was still possibly the top echelon of luxury car, as this was years before BMW's sport and image and Lexus's over-engineering exercise would push the luxury car away from straight-up luxury. Introduced in 1991, the W140 was a major step forward in design for Mercedes, as its sleeker looks were a further departure from the large radiator-style grille of earlier S-Class cars. The nose is laid back, the grille and headlights are smaller, and the rest of the styling essentially cleans up the busier cars of the 1980s. The W140 was also the last of the old nomenclature cars, which the number would appear in front of the trim levels. A year after this 1992 300 SE was built, the S-Class nomenclature as we know today, where the number follows the S, would be introduced. Previous models either had a 300, 400, 500, or 600 number, followed by the letter S, and then various other letters to designate engines and trims. With 7 available engines, 2 wheelbase options, and 2 body styles, this way of doing things was obviously becoming convoluted, especially with the smaller C and E models that slattered underneath. So, the Mercedes way of naming cars as we know it was born in 1993. Now the name started with each respective class, in this case the S, followed by a 3-digit number designating the engine size. If this was a 1993 model, it would be a 320. If it were a long wheelbase model, then it would be followed by the letter S. So if there was a 1993 model, it would be S320, but it is not, as a 1992 model year made for one of the last 300 SEs made. Of course, this way of doing things has become convoluted in its own way as years went on, and they stopped following the engine size to a T. But this is generally how you can tell Mercedes models apart from each other. Now, the W140 introduced a whole new line of engines for Mercedes. These included a 2.8-liter straight-six, a 3.2-liter straight-six, a 4.2-liter V8, and a 5-liter V8, and Mercedes' first V12, the 6-liter. The only carryover engine from the W126 is the 3.5 diesel, but that was introduced in 1996 with a smaller 3-liter variant. 3 transmissions were available, being a 5-speed manual and the 4-speed and 5-speed automatics. Power sent to the rear wheels, as the 4MATIC all-wheel drive system would not be introduced to the S-Class until the introduction of the W140 successor, the W220. This way of thinking, and the insistence on being the best large luxury car in the world, led to a multitude of delays. Development began in 1981, a year after the predecessor W126 was introduced. The goal was to come out in 1989. But competitors coming out with new models would lead Mercedes to go back to the drawing board and double down on technical innovation. The first of these surprise competitors to shake up development was BMW's introduction of the M70 V12 engine in its top-level 7 series. This would lead to Mercedes to rework the engine bay to allow for their own V12. Then came the introduction of the Lexus LS and Infiniti Q in 1989, which offered higher quality materials and engineering at much lower prices. Again, Mercedes would delay the introduction of the W140 for 2 years as it would focus on making the new S-Class a technological darling. Headlight wipers, soft close doors and trunk, double pane soundproof glass, parameter steering which reduces the effort to steer the car in parking lots and low speeds, rear parking markers that are supposed to extend when in reverse, 12-way power adjustable seats that allow for up to 3 saved settings for different drivers. The windshield wash is heated, auto-dimming rearview mirror that's tied to the steering wheel and seat memory. Heated side mirrors, an orthopedic seat option that consisted of several air cushions inside the seats to provide the optimal driving position. Dual zone climate control that expanded into a 4-zone on the long wheelbase models. Electric rear sunshade, rear passenger lit vanity mirrors, the first introduction of CAN bus for vehicle diagnostics, and the new double wishbone front suspension and multi-link rear. And much, much more. All of this was not cheap. Costs had exploded in the extended development. It reportedly cost Mercedes-Benz over
$1 billion.
Gentlemen, silence!
And this was before the canceled V16 that was deep into development. Reportedly, they had around 85 of these 800Ss, but due to increasing environmental concerns, the project was canceled. And after all of this development and all of this money, the W140 did not turn into a raging success that Mercedes had hoped. It was introduced directly into the recession that ran from 1990 to 1994. Slow sales would lead to the change in the direction of the famous German automaker. Out was the engineer's design and the over-engineering, and in was the market-driven design, a direction that would many see as a move backwards for the brand in the years to come. Now, how in the hell does all of this excess in German engineering show up at a used car lot for only $1,000? This 1992 300 SE has not aged, to put it lightly, well in the harsh New England climate. Undercar rust is at a minimum, but bubbling has started to appear on some of the exterior body panels. Various interior panels and buttons work and fit at varying levels of success. The primary ashtray at the center of the dash, it doesn't really fit back where it's supposed to anymore. Oops, sorry. Power moonroof works, kind of. Really slow, and I kind of had the owner stop the presentation as I was afraid it was going to break on him. It does close quite quick though. The tie rod ends and ball joints are on the list of needed repairs. Various lights on the dash flash at all times, but everything seems to be running okay according to the owner. The car does run quite smooth as originally intended. The oil pressure and temp sensors seem to do things on their own, and again, it's something I'm told not to worry about due to the owner's vigilance, maintenance, and check-in. All in all, this car was purchased at only 1.35% of its original purchase price, before taking into consideration inflation since 1992. Just insane how much this car has depreciated over its life. But the owner loves this car. It's still a work in progress, but it was an incredible deal he couldn't pass up. His other car, an early 90s Ford Thunderbird, had received damage in a parking lot and was looking for another car to rock during the main winters. The Mercedes sort of fell into his lap, and he fell in love with the car. I don't blame him. Despite its flaws, it's still a lot of car for the price, and it's certainly, in my opinion, currently the classiest car in Mexico, Maine. This car, the 1992 Mercedes-Benz 300 SCL, represents the end of an era. The end of German over-engineering as we knew it. Cost-cutting and the influx of down-market models that would hurt Mercedes-Benz image, as well as a tumultuous relationship with the American automaker Chrysler. Like mentioned before, BMW would grow into that luxury automaker that everyone would want to be once the new millennium hit. Acura, Infiniti, and especially Lexus would also build strong reputations of their own over time. And by the mid-2000s, America's own Cadillac would start to try to shake off its grandpa image in favor of something more in tune with BMW or Mercedes. The luxury car market would be flooded, and despite its sales in the right direction, Mercedes still hasn't quite gotten themselves back to being the ones to beat. The 1992 Mercedes-Benz 300 SE signaled the end of the old Mercedes. and its failures would usher in a new Mercedes that the company is still trying to recover from. Have a good night, everyone. Thank you once again for watching another episode of Wookie Drives. This episode comes courtesy of the channel Smith TV on YouTube, another full race uploader for all things racing. He's been digging deep into some really cool 1980s broadcasts as of late, so give him a watch for some vintage racing goodness. If you have a card you'd like to see on the show, and you happen to be in the Charlotte, Mooresville, North Carolina area, be sure to message the official channel Facebook page at facebook.com/WookieDrives or direct message my Twitter at WookieAutomoTV and we'll work something out. If you liked the video, go ahead and give it a like and leave a comment below with some feedback. Also be sure to hit that subscribe button for more Wookie content and future Wookie Drives, as I try to get these out about once a month due to my busy schedule. Anyway, thanks for watching and have a good night.
I saw those lights, and even though I was only 5, I knew something terrible had happened. First I saw the cars. They were, I don't know, mangled. My father told me not to look, but I had to. I remember seeing this little boy. We made eye contact. I could see the fear in his eyes. It's something I'll never forget. No, I don't drive a Mercedes to impress my friends.